Hayden, Jace, and Popa landed back in room 406, where Geoffrey was just beginning to gain the strength to sit up. After briefly speaking with the party, they all came to the conclusion that there was nothing else to do but to explore the apparatus further, and Geoffrey was still in no shape to do that safely. He agreed to hang back and then head to room 101, where he would meet them after they returned from their journey to another room. They decided to stay on the same floor they were on. They decided on room 408. After another goodbye with Geoffrey, the party headed down the hallway, the same hallway they used to pass by their fellow college classmates in, but that seemed like long ago now. They opened the door to room 408 to find a familiar mirror-like substance, and Hayden naturally did a backflip through the portal, getting pretty damn good at it now. Poyo note, I believe this time everyone attempted a backflip, but both Popa and Jace failed the athletics checks, rookies. Hayden emerged on the other side first, landing a perfect pose as he hit the ground while Popa and Jace landed on their faces behind him. When they looked around, they seemed to be in an all-white, pristine-looking hallway. There was almost no sound but the squeaking of their shoes against the floor, which faintly showed their reflections. Each end of the hallway stretched for as long as they could see, and in the same repeated pattern in a straight line, multiple identical window-shaped squares repeated themselves down each wall at chest/eye level, about 4 to 5 feet apart. Next to each square was a red button, and at the top of the wall, Wellness, Containment Facility occasionally repeated itself along a thin, painted purple line. They all looked at each other. They wanted to press a button. But they had no idea what would happen if they did. Eventually, after walking down one end of the hallway for a while with no noticeable changes in sight, they agreed to cautiously press one of the red buttons next to a square. Upon doing so, the square slid open to reveal a see-through window pane. When they slowly peered inside, they saw an all-white cube-shaped cell, similar to solitary confinement, and a 4-foot-tall frog standing on 2 legs, wearing a prisoner's rag and blankly staring at the right wall inside. They attempted to speak and shout at the frog, but it continued to blankly stare at the wall. It wasn't until they tapped on the glass when the frog's head would turn, but when it looked in their direction, it didn't seem to be able to see through the glass they were looking into. They were looking into an observation window. A two-way mirror. As this realization dawned on them, they pressed the button again and the window robotically slid shut. They decided to check the square right next to the one they just investigated. When they pressed the red button and the window slid open, they saw an identical cell, however this time there was a 7-ish foot tall birdman standing on 2 legs, doing squats. Again, he didn't seem to notice the window open or the party peering in at all. When they shut the window and checked the next cell, they found something different. An identical cell, they assumed, correctly, that all of the cells would be the same, but this time there was a decorative rug on the ground and nothing else. The rug had a red and gold outer lining with a green base, and when they tapped on the glass, it began to lift into the air. As they watched it float there for a moment, it began to drift and flow over to the window, and as it approached, it didn't seem to recognize them or anything, but it did seem to be intelligently controlling itself somehow. They shut the window and moved on to the next, becoming entertained now. They found a single sword in the next cell, in the center of the room. A short sword, impossible to wield with 2 hands, however, the longer they looked at the blade, the more frightened they became, and they couldn't explain why this was happening. Too freaked out, they shut the visor and agreed to check out one more window before investigating further into this mysterious facility. And it's a good thing they did.